All landowners can contribute to healthy and functional watersheds, no matter the size of their property. Join us as we visit 5 local backyard conservation champions eager to showcase their stewardship projects. Alex's naturalization project in downtown Cornwall not only promotes infiltration and facilitates best practices for drinking water source protection by reducing the need for lawn care chemicals, it also attracts pollinators and compliments from pedestrians.
Hello.
Hi, Alex.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Vince.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you.
How's it going?
Oh, good, good. Wow.
Do you want to see my pollinator oasis?
Well, we had seen photos of before you had started everything, and I'm just amazed at how much everything grew.
So I've been here for 3 years.
Okay.
This summer. And when I started, there was absolutely nothing except mounds of earth. So I actually had the front yard excavated, and I literally started from scratch.
Okay. So you've got like a nice mix of the native species as well as some more cultivars.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 95% native.
Okay.
And what happened was everything I got from the Conservation Authority was native. But again, when neighbors saw what I was doing, they kept offering perennials, and I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So I do have some stuff that's not native, but they're all pollinator friendly.
And like, what's the reaction been from like people walking by and neighbors and maybe people who have lived in the area here for a while?
I get a lot of people stopping by. The sign is part of it too.
Okay.
They see that something's going on here, right? Just positive reaction all around.
Nice. Probably doesn't take you very long to mow the grass, right?
No, it takes me longer to do the whippersnipper.
Yeah.
But even then, it's barely any time.
So you're saving water, you're reducing your emissions from the lawnmower.
Yeah, not using fertilizer like I was before, all those things.
This is not a native crabapple tree, but I do see that it is producing fruit.
Yes, so that tree was actually the first thing I planted 3 years ago, so it's been growing really well. From my downtown orchard.
They're actually pretty good for crab apples.
You know what, they've come a long way.
Yeah.
Because they were like totally sour before. This whole bed was all ornamental grass, so I actually got rid of 75% of the grasses, but I kept these. And they do provide a nice sheltered area.
Yeah.
And I'll often see pollinators resting on the blades of grass.
What a great example for all the people that walk by, drive by.
This whole project has been so much fun from the start till now. Every morning I have my coffee and I look outside and I just see this beautiful landscape with all the pollinators buzzing around and the plants constantly changing, coming into bloom and coming out of bloom. And to say that there was nothing here before and now I have this just shows that it doesn't matter how big your property is. You can still have an impact.
I can't wait to see how this project looks like in a couple years.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how many similar projects we'll see popping up on this street.
I've been spreading the word, and I've already told a bunch of people that just wait a couple years, I'll have so many plants to divide and give out. So it's the project that just keeps on giving.
Great way to meet your neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Helen's triangular backyard in Summerstown is flanked by 2 drains. Even though she requires open space for her work as a dog trainer, she has chosen to retain and significantly reinforce a healthy riparian buffer by planting hundreds of trees. Riparian buffers can play a significant role to protect water quality and increase resilience to flooding and erosion. I'm here today with Helen Mousseau, who is going to give us a bit of a tour of her property and some of the projects that she's been working on since moving here and through the Backyard Conservation Project. So tell me a little bit about this property.
So this property is 5 acres and it has a pond, and I got it initially because I have dogs.
Okay.
I train dogs in field. I partnered up with the Conservation Authority to buy some trees, get some trees.
How many trees did you plant since moving here, do you know?
Well, I would probably venture to guess at least 600, if not 700.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So tell me about some of the trees that you've planted here. I think we've got a white spruce here, and is that a butternut by any chance?
It is actually, and so again, I've tried to diversify in the tree selection. so that it's deciduous trees as well as fir trees, because then it attracts different type of wildlife.
And it's, of course, so nice to see a nice, healthy, strong, mature riparian buffer along the watercourse here. And
Yes.
you know, the fact that you've planted these small trees that are coming up. So what kind of advice would you have for people who maybe are just getting started based on the experiences that you've had?
I would say just go for it. I took advantage of your program. I went in the spring and I went and got a bunch of little trees, and I thought, well, I just start a line here and see one little patch and see how it goes. And then I was encouraged by that when I saw that things were growing. Trying different methods too, like sometimes I'll leave more grass around the roots of a tree to keep it protected, as opposed to completely burying it down to the ground.
You've planted a large amount of trees, so obviously a lot of them are doing well and will get to maturity.
A friend of mine was laughing at me. I'm going, well, I wonder when I can get maple syrup.
We've got, you know, like the Somerstown Forest is nearby,
Yep.
and then you've got the road and the fields. So it's nice to see like this habitat corridor in a way between the different forested areas that you've
Yep.
created here. When people come to visit, what are their impressions when they see, you know, that your area is not just completely mowed lawn everywhere, that you've got a nice balance between nature and what you're hoping to do with raising dogs?
It takes a bit of dedication to do all of this stuff. Sometimes it's easier to mow. But I think when I start talking about why I'm doing it, they understand. And especially when they're here and they actually see, you know, if they're here visiting and they see a heron, a blue heron land on the pond, they go, oh wow, right? So it's kind of it's an experience for them as well. This is what I think that we should have more of.
Helen, thank you so much for welcoming us today, and yeah, congratulations on you know, very successful stewardship projects. And as the years go by, it'll be great to see all these new trees mature and grow and keep providing habitat for our wildlife and providing a bunch of other ecosystem services. So thank you again. With their backgrounds in landscape architecture and their passion for building sustainable communities, it's no surprise that John and Susan's Cornwall backyard combines visually pleasing geometry with wildlife habitat, better infiltration, native vegetation, and composting. So we're here on a nice, beautiful, rainy afternoon. We're joined by Susan and John Towndrow, who have made an amazing transformation in the 16 years that they've lived at this property. So John and Susan, thank you so much for welcoming us today.
Thank you for
Nice to have you here.
Thank you for coming. It's lovely to show you around.
Tell me a little bit about this property and what you've done to it over the years.
It was basically the last lot, and it was just a grassy, sloping yard to the back. And so we had carte blanche. After the house was built, it was surprising how much higher it was than we'd imagined. So we ended up grading into 2 levels, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, because I see like you've got a lawn, but it's all these nice little paths here, and you've got the retaining wall.
So it was really important to have paths because I like to do a garden inspection and see what everything is. And we have areas that are quite sunny, so we've got a meadow in this section. It's wild.
What kind of difference have you seen with presence of pollinators or even birds or wildlife over the years as you went and did this transformation?
There's shelter for birds. In the springtime, it's just crazy with bird life. And we have butterflies that come in, especially there's a cardinal flower, and hummingbirds love that.
So we had the pleasure of having both of you share your experiences and your knowledge with us and all our participants during the recent backyard conservation workshop earlier this spring. And for somebody who wants to naturalize their yard or wants to reduce the amount of lawn that they have to mow, what would you say would be your advice to somebody starting off that perhaps, you know, isn't quite sure what to do or finds the process a little bit daunting?
Start small. You know, if you think you want to naturalize, just start small. Don't go crazy because you could get overwhelmed.
What I like is to have big areas where I can just pile all kinds of leaves, and then I don't have to rake them off the site and bag them up. You know, that's a big job, which people seem to, I don't know, they seem to like to do it, but I like to put them on the site.
So you don't get rid of any leaves?
No leaves whatsoever. In fact, I go around the neighborhood and I collect leaves and I use them as mulch.
How much has like the drainage and the infiltration been a part of your thoughts when it comes to your experiences or the design of this garden?
I think that was very important in this site because it's actually draining the area, all the other backyards around the outside down into a corner where there's a drainage basin. So we didn't want to close that off. And the other thing is terracing allows the water to be retained at this top level rather than all running off. And so that's helped to retain water.
Susan, John, I want to thank you for welcoming us to your backyard and showing us how you've transformed it. I think it's an amazing little oasis, and I know that it will inspire people to engage in more backyard conservation. So again, thank you very much. A strong tree cover comes with a multitude of benefits. It can mitigate the effects of flooding and erosion, provide habitat for wildlife, clean the air we breathe and the water we drink, and much more. Jesse, a Cornwall resident, wanted to personally take action to fight climate change, so he planted a forest in his backyard. I'm standing here today with Jesse Good, who established the Goodwoods some years ago. Soon, you won't be able to tell that we're actually right downtown in the middle of the city of Cornwall. So Jesse, tell me, what gave you the idea to stuff your backyard with trees?
I wanted to create a natural area in the middle of the downtown, which would support a lot of biodiverse life. This is already a very large yard, but it was just grass with a few large mature trees. Through the RRCA, I actually ordered 110 trees and I planted them over the course of a weekend in April a couple years ago. And some of this stuff has come up really high and some of it is still growing and some of it lasted and some of it didn't. And yeah, but so far the project is going great. This is my sister's house now, since I first planted these trees. And my dad actually does all the lawn mowing, so.
So what was the reaction from friends, family, neighbors, colleagues when they found out that you just, instead of being able to mow in nice straight rows, now you have to go all over?
I'm going to say that the people who got why I was doing it, the idea of creating a backyard sanctuary that's going to last for generations, they understood intuitively why to do it.
Do you think it's empowering for people to have the opportunity to transform their backyard into a space for conservation?
My primary motivations for doing this, besides the biodiversity elements of it, are really for climate change. If people can see what we're doing here, think about how they can do the same thing. It doesn't even have to be at the scale. 110 trees is nuts. I'm the first one to say, it took a lot of work to put these in the ground.
What would you say to somebody who, maybe wants to do something similar, but perhaps they don't want to go and plant 110 trees?
Well, putting a tree in the ground feels really good. So just the act of putting a single tree in the ground, I think means you've had a good day. If people could just get behind that idea, that's a great step.
What do you imagine it's going to look like once, 30, 40 years from now?
Give 30 years from now, and I hope this is like a cathedral of trees. That's why I put a path in here. I was really deliberate about which trees I put where, and certain branches I knew in 15 years, for now it's not a big deal, but 15 years from now, that's going to be a really cool arch, Whoever owns this property in the future, they're going to inherit something, which is they're going to wonder, who the heck put all these trees back here? What were they thinking? And I was thinking about them. I should also say, through the RRCA, all these trees were basically free. It wasn't very much money at all for me to actually do the investment for these trees because the grants that you guys make available.
All right, well, thanks, Jesse, for welcoming us to your property. This is an amazing project and just can't wait to see what it's going to look like as the decades go on and these trees mature and grow. So.
Thanks very much.
John and Patricia's riverside yard behind their 19th century house in Martintown occasionally floods during the spring melt. The pair reduces the risk of erosion by maintaining a healthy buffer zone along their shoreline. They have also recently planted native wildflower seeds on their property's roadside, which will attract pollinators and serve as a buffer between the river and potential salt or chemical residue from the road. We're here with John Smith at Heron Haven. John was one of the participants in RRCA's backyard conservation project this year, and yeah, thanks, John, for having us over.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
So,
welcome.
Tell me a little bit about your property. How long have you been here?
We moved here and we bought the property in 2012. The idea to move to someplace by water, right, for our retirements. You know, it truly is like a sanctuary.
So you've got, like, I'm noticing here, like a nice riparian buffer. So often, like, we'll see properties that where the grass is cut all the way to the edge.
No, you can see these are the remnants of the swamp weed, you know, and the monarchs just love that.
Even with, 1.2 acres, it doesn't mean that you can't have a ton of wildlife.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whenever you have like friends or family visit, do you ever get like feedback about like how nice it is to live in such a natural area?
Exactly.
Like,
everyone does. It's just like a piece of paradise, right?
one of the things we're hoping to encourage people to do is to think outside the box when it comes to your yard design, right? Because like not every yard needs to be completely manicured grass. Yeah, so tell me about some of the items you've planted and sort of like your plans for this area here.
What we've done is, where we see stakes along here, those are all the seed bombs, right, for butterfly bushes. So this area gets a lot of sun, so I said we went with the sun ones there. And I have a bunch coming of the ones that I'm really after, which was the elderberries.
Right, yes. I guess people don't realize sometimes is that it's not just, obviously it'll make your property look nicer if you have a nice mix of shrubs and trees and wildflowers, but as with elderberry, like you can actually, there's a lot of native edible plants that you can do all kinds of things with.
You know, even the cones on those sumacs if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you ever tried it? Or?
Yes, I have had it. Yes. Yeah. It's an acquired taste.
Yeah. So this is like an ideal site for a project to also like just protect water or enhance water quality.
Exactly.
You've got the river just down here, you've got the road there, and of course, like we always try to encourage responsible salting practices, but I mean, things happen sometimes or there's a little bit too much salting, or even like a residue from cars or anything, any spills or whatever. So it's the work still continues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you for sharing your projects with us. You and Patricia have done a terrific job turning this property into a beautiful haven for wildlife and heron and pollinators, and while also protecting the health of the river by having a beautiful buffer and like riparian area. So your place is an inspiration to property owners, and keep up the great work. Thank you for joining us on this virtual tour series. We hope you're inspired to also become backyard conservation champions and to consider natural hazard mitigation, drinking water source protection, and environmental stewardship when enhancing your yard or shoreline.